This is the Corvette C8. It does 0 to 60.
Who cares?
I was rolling down the street doing 83, crashed into a tree near a university, escaped alive though the car was battered, a rat-a-tat, choo-choo, talk about the race, Rick.
You guys want to hear about the race and the arrests and
Whoop, whoop, that's the sound of the police.
please just stop. Breaking news. So apparently some guys were street racing the new Corvette C8. Yes, the C8 that has not even been released yet has already been busted street racing. And by the way, by street guys, Five Guys Burgers and Fries. Code word fries. I mean GM engineers. That's their official public title as of this news coming out. GM engineers, hashtag savage. So these guys were driving over 100 miles per hour in a 45 mile per hour zone right in the middle of Bowling Green. This is Bowling Green, Kentucky. So as you can see, Bowling Green, Kentucky seems to have a lot of nice candidates for some good old-fashioned street racing. Now, depending on the road conditions, I probably might want to pick a road, maybe somewhere back, a lot of curves. I like curvy roads, but I don't think, actually, this would be a good road for a Corvette C8, because they've actually broken the bounds of the whole reputation of American muscle cars being straight line cars. The Corvette, even the C7, the handling is amazing, and the C8 is supposed to be on a whole different level. So perhaps this might actually be a good road, but considering this is farmland, I don't know if some deer or cow or donkey or rhinoceros or whatever the hell might jump out at you in the middle of a race. So this story could have been a whole different type of story, considering out in the country, lots of nice empty roads, but when the roads are close to greenery like this, might not be a good idea. Okay, so it's official. The Corvette C8 can go above 120 miles per hour, which, considering it's a high-performance sports car, is irrelevant. But I just think it's interesting that it's officially been clocked by police radar at over 120 miles per hour in a 45 mile per hour zone. What? And apparently this street race was done after leaving a bar. I'm not gonna assume that they were drinking in the bar, but that's usually what's done in a bar. But I've been to many bars that I haven't had a drink in, so maybe these are the type of engineers like me who goes to a bar to not drink. What a weirdo. Excuse me. Can I interrupt this video to just say how sexy the Corvette C8 looks? I mean, damn, that looks so amazing. And this is American muscle. I hate to even call it American muscle because it's so much more than a muscle car. It's on a whole different level. It's beautiful. Okay, back to the video. So this incident occurred last Wednesday on January 8th. The charges are racing a motor vehicle on a public highway, reckless driving, and speeding 26 miles per hour or more over the speed limit. And we know the Corvette C8 is certainly capable of more. Much, much more than 120 miles per hour. The C8 isn't even fully warmed up at 120 miles per hour. I can run faster than 120 miles per hour. No, you can't! Over the top. Really, really over the top. So the alleged racers were 27 years old and 30 years old. So it is Alexander Thim and Mark Derkatz. These two individuals are now going to officially go down in the Automotive Hall of Fame as the world's first, and definitely not last, Corvette C8 drivers to get busted street racing, or to street race at all, the Corvette C8. The fact that they've done this before the car is even released makes it all the more legendary. Savage! So these guys are both electrical engineers, and they were there temporarily preparing these cars for the retail launch. Now, apparently they were racing on a road called Lover's Lane. You just can't make this stuff up. So 2 GM engineers were busted street racing in pre-production Corvette C8s on a road called Lover's Lane in Kentucky after leaving a bar. And they were clocked at speeds exceeding 120 miles per hour in a 45 mile per hour zone. So there was actually a third driver that they're not letting us know who that driver is. And that driver, although he missed an opportunity to be in the Automotive Hall of Fame, he might be the lucky one of the bunch, because I can't say what he was or was not going to do, but he was in, I believe, a third vehicle and potentially would have been racing with these guys too, but he chose not to. Hence, his name is not named and he has no charges. Lucky number 3. So apparently the cops actually spotted these cars before the actual racing. They actually spotted them and followed them for over a mile. So the police are saying that they were smelling alcohol on the breaths of these drivers, but the fact that they were not charged with driving under the influence, or there's no mention of them getting a sobriety test, I mean, it suggests that they were drinking, which is why they were in the bar. But even though they say don't drink and drive, I mean, that's generally as a philosophy, but if you only have one beer, I'm pretty sure you'll be fine, assuming you had enough rest and there's no other issues. The issue is going into a bar, planning to just have one beer, and then going for a drive, or worse yet, a race. That's a tall order. Chances are you'll have more than one, and then your judgment gets impaired. So at what point in time do you say, enough's enough, I've had too much to drink? It's kind of a weird scenario. The more you drink, the less you would be able to judge whether you've had too much to drink, making it very easy to go over your threshold, which is why it's probably not a good idea to go to a bar and drink if you're planning on driving. But having just one drink, or depending on who you are and what your background is, experience with alcohol, you could maybe even have 2 depending on what you're drinking as well, and certainly not be impaired. But you are going to have the smell of alcohol on your breath because, hey, you had something to drink that had alcohol in it. So, yeah. So the 2 drivers were booked and released on $1,000 bail. Pre-trial will be February 18th, and the automotive world will be listening, watching, waiting for the outcome. So this is kind of a double-edged sword type situation, because it could go a couple different ways. For example, if you are so inclined to give these guys a break, nobody was hurt, they weren't drunk, or whatever the scenario is, you've got the world watching. This is going to be a very visible sort of situation. So, would they make an example of these guys? Or would they risk seeming impartial? Meanwhile, a regular person doing something far worse, let's say a regular person doing the exact same thing, and getting a really harsh punishment, would not be a good look. So, in the spirit of being fair, will they not only give these guys what they should be getting based on the law, or will they go a little extra hard just to make sure that no one thinks that they were easy on them? No one's gonna think, man, oh man, they probably would have gotten more if they were regular people. Like, are you gonna go a little harder so that nobody will ever look back and say they didn't treat them fairly in accordance with how they would treat normal people? So I don't know, it could be a bad thing for them that it's so public. I'm leaning towards the side of it not being a good thing that it's so public. It would have been better if it didn't end up in the news, but here we are. I believe these are the drivers, Mark and Alexander, West Bloomfield, Michigan, and Windsor, Ontario. Good mugshots. They deserve to be thrown in jail. Yeah, these 2 guys are toast. Their careers at GM are over. They'll be discharged from their jobs and shown the door first thing Monday morning. When you drive company cars at GM, you have to sign a document containing rules and behaviors deemed acceptable and unacceptable. GM doesn't tolerate abuse of that. They're very strict about it. These two were just plain idiots. So let's see. Excessive speeding in company vehicle, driving and drinking in a company vehicle, reckless driving in a company vehicle. Can you imagine what would have happened if they were involved in any kind of accident with an innocent victim? The liabilities for GM would be huge. GM doesn't need irresponsible employees like these two that put the company at significant risk. My guess is they'll never work in the automotive industry again. What would you say if a year or two in the future these guys pop up again as official street racers, the C8 Legends, with even a name that somehow is inspired by this incident? If that does happen, just remember, you heard it here first.
Click on the like button, subscribe, and smash that bell so you don't miss out on future videos right here on Carlisle's Picks. Cops nab 2 GM engineers driving 100 miles per hour plus in Chevy Corvettes. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. This has been breaking news on Carlisle's Picks.
Whoop, whoop. That's the sound of the police. Whoop, whoop. That's the sound of the police.
A rat-a-tat and shooting also tap. Knocked over the old lady. Shooting land. Rolling down the street doing 83. Crashed into a tree near a university. Escaped alive though the car was battered. Rat-tat-tat and all the cops scattered. Whoop, whoop.
That's the sound of the police.